Welcome to this episode of Self-Made with Dee Brown CEO. My guest today is a world-renowned actor who is the star of Tyler Perry's hit TV series, The Oval. Please help me welcome Lodric Collins to Self-Made. Lodric, man, I'm glad to have you on the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
Hey, listen, you have so much to cover, so let's just jump right into it. I want to start really back in Lake Charles, Louisiana, as a kid. Tell me about growing up in Lake Charles. What was it like?
It's a great time. I didn't think of it as that at the time because I didn't know what to compare it to, but I grew up, I'm the middle child of 4 brothers, and my dad was a cement finisher. So we started working when we could walk. I think at the age of like first grade, I remember going to work with my dad pouring concrete, and he showed us how to set up forms. And for like our birthdays and Christmas and things like that, he would buy us sledgehammers. Yeah. Imagine getting 5 boys sledgehammers, and he would take us to a job site, and he'd be like, "Hey, we need to break all this up. So go to work." You know?
Right.
So,
wrecking forms.
Wrecking forms, exactly. Yeah, tearing up concrete slabs and repouring. Sports. Just hanging out with my brothers. I have a large family. Again, my mom and dad has 5 boys. My dad has 9 brothers and sisters, and everyone lived next to each other. So like my cousins are like my brothers and sisters.
Right.
My uncles and aunts are like my parents. You know. So when they say it takes a neighborhood or a village to raise a family, that's literally what it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what sports did you play?
I played baseball, I played basketball, I played everything that had some type of ball and that you could win an award for.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you developed a passion for acting at a very early age.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Well, especially being a middle child, you got to I realized early you got to find your groove, you know? So my grandmother, I remember one day, she said, "I got to find something to make this boy sit down and be still," you know, because he just won't be still, because I was just all over the place. And she took me to this theater. It was on the railroad tracks, man. It was the weirdest thing because it was like this abandoned warehouse that we probably passed on our bikes all the time. Yeah. It was called Axe Theaters on the railroad tracks, so you know it was in the hood.
Right.
And we went to see this show like The Adventures of Oliver Twist or Huckleberry Finn, one of those, I forget. Yeah. But I remember walking inside, and I've always been a person of detail. These raggedy doors open, and inside were like these Sistine Chapel ceilings and these buttresses that went all the way up. And I'm like, what is this? I'd never been in a place like that before. Yeah. And then we went inside the theater, and I'm like, this is crazy. I don't know what's about to happen, but I'm here for it. And I remember, and she used to describe it all the time, like how my attention just went all kind of ways for a moment, and then it just sat still. I remember like the sound from what was going on the stage didn't hit me here, it hit me from the back. And I'm like, what, why? He's talking here, but it's hitting me from the back, and where are these lights coming from? And, you know, I was captivated. And then these people came on stage, and everything just like went into like this fantasy world, you know? Yeah. And I remember just sitting still the whole time and just paying like really close attention to every single detail that was going on, but still allowing myself to escape into this really cool world.
Right.
My grandmother describes it as the first time I really ever sat still in my life, you know? And I remember we came out, and I said, "I want to do that." She says, "You do?" I said, "Yeah." So she grabs all these pamphlets and brochures, and then I think the week after that, there's an audition for The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, I go in, I audition, not knowing what I'm doing, just allowing my creativity or whatever it is to run wild. And I'm like, "You got the part," you know?
Wow.
And then we did that, and that was the foundation of it all.
That was the foundation.
Yeah.
So you completed high school in Lake Charles?
Yeah, Washington Mary Magnet High School. Yeah.
And then you went on to Southern University in Baton Rouge.
I did.
Talk to me about that, about Southern.
Oh, it was great. I'd mainly, being from Lake Charles, Louisiana, it was a very segregated town, so my family felt safe throughout since the first grade, sending me to predominantly African-American institutions. So Southern was not really as different in the sense that, Southern wasn't really differently in terms of aesthetics, but culturally, it was the first time that I was embraced with who I was in terms of an African American on this planet Earth in America, and the pride was instilled in me of who I am and what I represent when I go out into the world. And Southern was really good at that because there were always some reminders of who you are and the greatness of who you are and what you represent when you step out and the entitlement and space that you're allowed to take up in this world. Right. It's really important. And they pushed that to us really hard. Yeah. I didn't understand it at the time, but the minute I stepped out into the world, as soon as I graduated, I moved to New York City. I understood it in folds. Yeah.
So you moved to New York. Yeah. Talk to me about that transition from Southern to New York, because obviously going from Louisiana to almost anywhere is culturally, there's going to be a significant difference, right? But going to New York, I mean, it's a big change.
New York was perfect for me because my whole life I'd existed in a place where people couldn't, not people, the environment couldn't catch up to the energy that I had inside. I always was the last one at a party or an event waiting for more to happen. After it was over, I would want to find a place. I remember buddies and I would go to like Super Walmart because it was the only thing open 24 hours and we weren't ready to go home. So, so when I moved to New York and I'm like, wait, this place is going all the time.
Right, nonstop.
And every single thing that I've ever been interested in, I can try out. It was like going to a buffet, you know. You want to try your hand in this? Yeah, go ahead, you know. It was just a buffet of action and adventure, and I describe it every day of walking outside of my house. It was like, what's the Alice in Wonderland, where she goes into the looking glass and it's an adventure every single day. But I remember moving there. I was interning with a company for the summers, and they eventually moved me there after I graduated. And after work, I would do community theater, or I would audition for commercials, things like that, just as a hobby. Yeah. And eventually those things started picking up. And I remember speaking to my mentor, not necessarily about me wanting to pursue acting, but just in terms of happiness. And it was, that conversation was a pivotal point in my life because he was an officer of a company. He was the first black officer that I'd seen in a major company. So when it came to representation, I just always gravitated to him naturally. I remember going to his house. He said, come to my house, I'm gonna have a barbecue, and come and have some fun, meet the family. Yeah. I come over and there's like a fleet of beautiful cars. There's a butler that meets me at the door, brings me to the back, huge pool, and his kids have like Rolls Royces, and his wife's got a Ferrari, and everyone's like just lounging by this pool, and it's like a life of luxury that I always dreamed of. Yeah. And when everything died down, I said, man, you must be really, really happy. He says, what makes you say that? I said, because you got all of this. You know, your wife you've got this beautiful home, your wife's got these cars, all your kids have got like these fleet of cars that I dreamed of, you know, you must be really happy. And he said to me, he said, what if I said I wasn't? I was like, wait, what do you mean? He said, what if I told you that I wasn't happy? I was like, I wouldn't believe you. He was like, what makes you think that I have it? I was because you got all of this. He was like, I'm not gonna tell you I'm not happy. He was like, but what if I told you I wanted to do something different with my life? I was like, you would throw me off. I don't understand. You know, I'm totally at a loss. He says, I'm not going to tell you that I'm not, but what I will say is, if I had the opportunity to do something different or to do something that I enjoyed in life, I would do it. He was like, if you have the opportunity to do something or find something that you enjoy, that you gravitate to, that you think will bring you a lifetime of happiness, I encourage you to do it. If you can find that in this company, I encourage you to find that. But like, it's important in your life. It's important for me to tell you at this point that you must find it. He was like, because eventually you're gonna find yourself with a family, with a beautiful wife, with kids, and they're all gonna want something, and you're gonna be in a place where you're now forced to provide and sometimes sacrifice that happiness. Threw my mind off, man. Threw my mind off in a major way. And after that, I got an offer for a project, and they were like, you can't work the full-time job and do the project. And I remember putting in my notice. Yeah. And he called me into his office. He said, if you ever tell anybody I told you that story, I'll tell them that you're a liar, okay? It was the coolest moment.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still in touch right now. Every time something happens, he reaches out to me like, hey, I'm proud of you. Are you happy? You know?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm great, yeah. So that conversation, moving to New York, having that conversation, it all kind of leads you to where you are, you know?
Right.
Which is right here, right now.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
So when did you get your first big break in acting?
I always say my first big break was the first, not big job that I booked. It was a small job, but it taught me a lot. It was on a soap opera. My first job on the soap opera, it was All My Children. Mm-hmm. I met with the casting director, and he said, let's rearrange your resume, because this isn't how it's supposed to look, you know?
Yeah.
We'll set it up, and hey, what are your skills? Because you don't have enough skills on there. And I never talked about my experience in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think it would add any value to where I was as an actor. He says, tell me a little bit about yourself. I was like, oh, I was in the Marine Corps. He's like, why didn't you talk about that? Why didn't you put that on here? I was like, oh, I didn't think it was a value. And he said, everything of your life is a value, and it brings you here, you know?
Yeah.
So tell me about it. I told him a little bit, and I went home, and the next day he called. He said, hey, we had a really good audition and meeting. I got a question. Do you know how to rappel off of a mountain? And I was like, yeah, I know how to rappel off of a mountain. I know how to rappel out of a plane. I could do that. He was like, I got this really cool job. We'll pay you for stunts and everything. And you got this dialogue, but we set up this mountain in the studio like this. Yeah. We set up a real live mountain, and we need you to rappel off of it, rescue this lady and deliver these lines and get her to safety, you know?
Yeah.
And it reminded me, kind of like he said, everything brings you to that place, and everything of your life is a value. You know, if it hadn't been for my life in the Marine Corps, if it hadn't been for the conversation with my mentor, I wouldn't have been in that place right now. So it kind of just said to me, you know, remember everything that you've done and know how to apply it to every situation, because it all matters to some degree, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
So talk to me about your time in the Marine Corps.
Oh. It was a time. I just remember it was before I went to Southern University, between high school and college. I didn't go straight out of high school because I thought I wasn't comfortable with recruiters at the time. I wanted to make the decision on my own. Yeah. I wanted to do the research on my own. I remember someone told me that it was the hardest branch, and I said, that's what I need. Yeah. You know, it was all valiant reasons why I went in. I remember I wanted to be something important I wanted to be something important within this place in the world. I wanted to be something valuable to the world, and I didn't know what that was. Everyone was going to college, but at the time, I needed adventure. I needed to feel important to something. I needed to feel a part of something, and I needed a major challenge in my life. Yeah. And I thought the Marine Corps would bring it, and it did. Yeah, it was a great experience. It taught me a lot about discipline. I remember before going in, I went to church, and someone gave me this card that I still hold with me till this day, and it says, you can do all things through Christ, which strengthens you. Yeah. Every single challenge where I felt like, oh, my knees are going to give out, my body's going to give out, I can't, no. I remember I would always keep that little card in my pocket, and it got me through it. But it taught me, like, just how strong I am, how resilient I am. It taught me that there is nothing that is impossible. I know it sounds like a Hallmark card slogan, but I think going through boot camp alone for the 3 months taught me that in the beginning, which carries me through life. Yeah. It taught me a stubbornness of nothing's impossible and always persevere. So it's like, I think that's why I'm here, because I never know when to quit or when to stop. Right. Yeah.
Hey, that's a common trait of successful people, I believe.
Yeah.
So let's pivot back to your acting career. So you played Smokey Robinson in the Aretha Franklin biopic Respect. Talk to me about that experience.
I grew up idolizing this guy. Right. You know, Smokey Robinson, Lionel Richie, like, yeah, of course my parents would play it, but I grew up watching these cats and idolizing them. I remember, like, when I was a kid, watching, it was like, my mom loved Diana Ross, and she was doing some type of concert, and this man walks in, and it's Smokey Robinson, and he's not supposed to be there, and he surprises her. And he goes up to the stage, and he's talking to her, and she's talking, and she won't look at this guy. And I'm like, why isn't she looking at this guy? And she turns, she looks at the guy, she can't stop staring. Then she kisses the guy on the mouth, and the whole audience is like, ooh. And she's like, let me stop, I gotta go back to the audience. And he's just staring at her like this cool, suave cat, just staring at her more and more, like she's gonna fall into the trap again. Just watch, And she looks back, she kisses him again because she can't stop staring. That was something powerful to see, because you see this guy with confidence and sophistication, but he's also this alluring, Don Juan. I idolized that since as a kid, man.
Yeah.
Me, my brothers, I think every guy I knew who paid attention to those guys wanted to be those guys, because they're the first forms of representation that we saw as kids in media.
Right.
So the opportunity to play him, it was phases, man. It was, when they first said it, I was excited. Then I was intimidated, like, wait, this is Smokey Robinson. This is not just everybody else. Aretha Franklin has passed on. All these other people, this guy's still alive.
Right.
So we got to make sure we get this right to some capacity, because this guy that I idolize is going to be watching that.
Right.
And then we started doing research, and it's just settled into a cool place of, you know what? This is where we want to go with him. Let's do it as best we can and pay as much respect to your idol as you can,
Yeah.
And get a chance to work with some really phenomenal people.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So you currently star on the Tyler Perry hit TV series, The Oval.
Yeah.
How did you land that spot?
Networking. It started when I was in New York. Yeah, I remember the have and have nots. No, Tyler was doing other shows, and I had a management company, and I said, I wanna work with this guy. I wanna be a part of what he's doing. So let's make that happen. And we started the process of getting to know the casting people and producers there. And Have and Have Nots came out. That was my first audition with them. I remember I was in Brazil, and I didn't have any camera. All I had was a camera phone and a lamp. And I remember my friend and I, she turned the lamp to me. She's like, this is gonna be your lighting, and we'll use this video, this new iPhone that we have, iPhones that just come out, this new iPhone, and we'll record it on this, That was my first audition, and I think I had probably 8 auditions in between that I didn't get, and then finally we came around, we booked the Have and Have Nots. He liked the work. And he brought me back for the other show, Sisters. It didn't work out, but he was like, we got a better role for you, The Oval. Actually, during the audition with Sisters, I was like, you got a show called The Oval, it's a procedural. I really like that. If this thing doesn't work out with Sisters, keep me in mind for that. And they did call me, and it worked out,
And so what is it like working with Tyler Perry?
It's great. It's an honor. I was just telling a friend, every time you walk onto the studio lot, for me, it's like walking into Disney World. Because first, we work on a studio lot that was a former Confederate Army base, which is powerful because it's now owned by a black man, And working in Hollywood, you don't see faces like this often behind the camera. I think it's a diverse crew of people. Black, white, Asian, Hispanics, ex-cons, single mothers with second chances, It's a place built on a foundation of a person who sees people and the world for what it should be. And I'm really, really proud to be a part of that. Yeah. And everybody is happy to be at work. Everybody's happy to be. I was like, I've never seen this many people happy to go to work. From the moment they pick you up from the plane, people are smiling, and they bring you onto a place where everybody's smiling. It's like Disney World, man. It's like Disney World. And I can't say enough, how proud I am to be a part of that process. It means a lot to me. It's a product of what my father, my mother, my grandparents fought for, and the idea that, I think about their stories and I think about their sacrifices, and I think about where I am now with these wonderful group of talented people, both in front of and behind, and I'm like, you know what? the system works. You know what I mean? All these things that these ancestors and these grandparents and these parents have been fighting for. This is the product of it. You know, you're looking at it, and not just that. You're not just looking at it. You're a part of it now. You know.
Right.
So it's a lot of pride that I have when I walk into the studio, or even when I talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Who has been the most influential person in your life?
My grandfather. Yeah. My grandfather, he passed away a few years ago, but he was one of the last remaining Buffalo soldiers of World War II. It's so many foundations of being a man that he's taught me in life. From the shoes you wear to, I remember he would tell me, I don't care what you wear, you can go outside raggedy, but you can get you a nice pair of shoes. Because it's the foundation of who you are, which goes back to my dad laying concrete, you know? Right. My dad would always tell me that, you know, concrete is the foundation of the house. If you don't build the foundation right, the house is gonna fall. Right. My grandfather would tell me, wear a nice pair of shoes because you need something solid and nice to stand on, you know? And he also taught me just how powerful your word is. There was a lot across the street that I thought that he owned, and we would play football and baseball in, we would wrestle, we built a wrestling ring in, we were addicted to WrestleMania. Right. And all my life he would tell us, hey, go across the street and cut the grass at the lot, take care of that lot, just make sure you take care of it as much as you can, go trim the hedges. And I became an adult, and I remember one day I flew home when I was living in New York, and they were building a house on the lot, and I said, Pops, they're building a house on your lot. What's going on? He was like, that's not my lot. I said, what do you mean that's not your lot? He was like, that was never my lot. I was like, wait, what? He says, yeah, old man Carter, a long time ago before you were born, he had a house there, it burned down, and he went away, and he said, hey, can you take care of my lot while I'm gone? And he said, I gave him my word that I would. Yeah. So for like 30 years, my grandfather made sure that the lawn was cut every day, that the hinges, the bushes were trimmed. Yeah. And I said, why would you do that? He said, because I gave him my word that I would.
30 years.
30 years. Yeah. You know, I mean, he made us put in the labor, but still, 30 years, you know, that's something powerful. Right. But he'd also tell us these stories about him being a hero of war. It would be like bedtime stories that we didn't realize were true until I became an adult or in high school. Yeah. And I realized like all these stories of my grandfather saving lives and risking his life for his country and being a prisoner of war behind enemy lines, they're actually true. So then he became my hero, you know? Yeah. And he's one of the main reasons why I joined the Marine Corps, because I wanted to be this beacon of something really important in the world like he was, you know? Yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned about the commitment that your grandfather made to his neighbor and how he kept that commitment for 30 years. Yeah. And that kind of lead me to this question, because I know commitment is at least part of your answer, but what do you contribute your success to?
I contribute my success to the men. Well, I don't want to just say the men, because the women in my life are very strong, but I have a lot of influential, strong men in my life, you know? I have 4 brothers who are like extremely strong, positive, influential people in my life. I have a father, my grandfather, and my dad has 7 brothers and 2 sisters. And everybody's got their own distinct thing that they've given. You know, I've got neighbors. I have a media company. It's called Charlie Ray Media. And I named it that because my dad's name is Charles Raymond. His nickname was Charlie Ray. Okay. There was a brother across the street who raised his kids that were our age. His name was Charlie Ray. There was a man a block away that owned the liquor store. His name was Charlie Ray. There was a man at the gas station. His name was Charlie Ray. Wow. And they were all people within this village that instilled something in every single one of us as we grew up. You know, they were all fathers to us. Yeah. So it's kind of like a tribute to them and what the influences that they had, you know. Charlie Ray's like a metaphor, you know. It's a metaphor for my uncles. It's a metaphor for my dad. It's a metaphor for my grandfather. It's a metaphor for all these positive men in my life that motivated me, that said, hey, wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You know, it's a metaphor to my dad who poured concrete and said, hey, you know what? Let's not be a small fish in a big pond with everybody else doing this. Let's move over here because there's a demand here for concrete and we don't have to compete as hard, you know?
Right.
Or when we go fishing, hey, yeah, the fish are biting here, but if they're biting here, they're also biting there. So let's go to a quiet place right here where we could probably catch more, you know, more fish. Right. Yeah. And I've attributed that to how I approach my career, you know? Yeah. It's probably one of the reasons, not probably, it is one of the reasons why I'm working with Tyler. You know, Tyler's institute was in Atlanta, Georgia. At the time, I was in New York City, where I was a small fish in a big pond. Right. You know. Right. Yeah. So it's those things as I think about them. Even as I talk to you now, I realize how pivotal those lessons were that my dad, my grandfather, all those men taught. Yeah. Right.
Well, the Oval was just picked up for another season.
Yeah.
That's exciting news. Tell me about where you were when you found out and how you felt about it.
Yeah, I was in Los Angeles when I found out. Really exciting, really exciting. I know the power of TPS, Tyler Perry Studios. Yeah. I know that they produce franchises that go on for quite a long time. So I wasn't really surprised, but excited, you know?
Absolutely.
But excited, yeah.
Hey, it's been great having you on the show, Lodric. I mean, great interviewing you. I appreciate you taking time out your busy schedule to be here with me. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Pleasure's mine.
And to my viewers that are watching, thank you for tuning in. And remember, without you, there's no me.